Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to another episode of Soul Over Matter podcast. I'm your host, Michelle, and today we have Kristine McGlinchey-Yap as our guest. She is a former career-driven millennial who transitioned her leadership skills from fast-paced corporate America to become an author, intuitive teacher, and energy healer. She teaches women how to connect to their spirit babies so that they can awaken their intuition, deepen their sense of purpose, and heal limiting beliefs to conceive the life of their dreams. Kristine, welcome to Soul Over Matter. How are you?
Hi, I'm so happy to be here.
Me
Excited.
too. Yes. Yes. How's your day going?
It is going great, but this Mercury retrograde period that we have coming for us, I'm not really feeling it too much.
Yeah, before we start recording, we're like, what time is it? We have a meeting. Yeah, I feel you. I feel you. It's always like surrender, let go, take a couple extra deep breaths before any engagement. I hear you.
Mm.
Um, Yeah, so I also don't even remember how I connected with you, but I was just drawn to this topic of conscious motherhood, of spirit babies, of conscious conception. So I'd love to hear, and I'm sure my audience would love to hear too, your story, right? How did you get to do this work? What brought you here?
So I spent over a decade in corporate America. So I was a corporate publicist and a social media manager for a lot of like luxury hospitality brands. And I just knew that my soul was made for something else. And when I became pregnant with my daughter, she was really the catalyst for the next iteration of
Mm,
my purpose and what I am here to do. Never would I have imagined that I would be sitting here having this conversation with you. Like that's 100% being transparent. But I kind of just followed the breadcrumbs. I followed the nudges. I was open to any possibility, and I often tell my clients that your why is so much more important than the how. And that's kind of what
mm,
I led with. The why for me was being a present mom, was not working 18-hour days, was not having to travel internationally every month. It was just being able to be that guide and that the mom from my child that I didn't really have growing up. So that was like really important to me, and everything kind of formed around that. Like the more that I deepened and I trusted and I flowed with it, it led me to where I am today in helping other women also acknowledge that deep passion inside them, that
mm,
they're meant for something more, and giving ourselves the permission to live that life, because a lot of the time we don't allow ourselves to pursue what actually matters to us because we have all of this baggage and the limiting beliefs of how can this be me, or how can I possibly do this?
mm. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, I feel like that story can be, as you were sharing, I was nodding my head to a few of those points. I feel like that story could be so universal for so many of
Yeah.
us, like you said, right?
Mhm.
That very masculine, but like, I don't want to say toxic, but wounded masculine of our
Yeah.
society, that corporate, that brings us out of the feminine, brings us out of our cycles, and brings us out of the rhythm that we truly are as
Definitely.
women. So I smiled when you shared that your daughter was the catalyst
Mhm.
for this work. Did your intuition kind of turn on more when you became pregnant with her?
As soon as I found out, like literally the moment I saw that positive result on that pregnancy test, I said, yep, this is the moment everything changes. Like, this
Mm,
is that validation that, you know, and I tell my clients this often, like sometimes spirit forces you to do something.
yes.
Like, that you should have been doing it, right? And I think for a lot of us, that was probably COVID. Like, that you should have probably been making these decisions, but now you have no choice. And that was kind of like, there is no other choice for me now. Like, this is happening right now. Cause I always wanted to leave my corporate job, but I just didn't see how or what was I going to be doing? how was I supposed to leave my corporate job? And so she was like the bridge to bring me here. And when I started my business, I was, I was still consulting. I was still very much in that masculine. It was like I had my own business, but I was still trapped in those masculine structures and systems. I was still very unhappy, with the
Mm.
way that things were aligning. And COVID happened, and it gave us all a chance to really slow down, to free ourselves of some of those distractions and to make some really big decisions. One of my spiritual mentors, Nikki Novo, at the time during COVID, started a certification program for intuition. I had no idea what it was, what it entailed, but I said, you know what? Yep, I need that. Like, whatever it is, I'm here for it. I have the time now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that program was all about reading energy, just deepening a sense of power, magic that we've forgotten through time and space. That program allowed me to slow down. It allowed me to heal. It allowed me to give myself the permission and the space to become who I always knew I was, but was scared to be. And I think that's so resonant for a lot of us, especially women. It's kind of like we're scared of how powerful we are because society has made it so. Like, literally, the structures of our system as it is today isn't made for powerful women, right? And we're at a very fortunate place in history where that narrative is shifting and we are moving into a more matriarchal society and way of life, where COVID and even prior before, like, women have been awakening to these sacred truths and powers. And I'm just really fortunate to be able to be kind of like at the, you know, core of some of those changes in the space that I hold for other women, but also to be in a time where this work is more possible to do than it
Mm.
would have been 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm. So many good points. Yeah. Yeah, 100%. It's such powerful work that you're doing as well. I'd love to hear the kind of women that you work with, right? So, what is a spirit baby? Maybe someone's on here, it's like, what? I don't even know what a spirit baby is. Like, I have knowledge, I've read some books, right? But yeah, share more about the work that you do
Sure.
and how you connect.
Yeah. So in that intuitive program, I learned the Akashic records. I learned how to read energy, but my studies didn't stop there. I went on to become attuned in Reiki. I studied different modalities, feminine energy. I became a women's circle facilitator, a hypnobirthing educator. I just went deep into like the feminine modalities, but also like maternal health and spiritual wellness is just such a passion of mine. So organically, like, I read the book Spirit Babies. I had like an awareness around it. I'm a psychic and a medium. So I during my readings with women, I will channel, like I was channeling like ancestors or, like connecting with their spirit guides. It wasn't until I had this client who was having a really difficult time conceiving. And she
Mm.
was like, I don't know if this is something you do, but would you be able to connect to my spirit baby? And I was like, you know what? Like, it just felt super aligned. And I'm like, yeah, like, let's do it. Right. I already had like a relationship established with this person. So it just felt very natural and organic. And as soon as I did it, I was like, wow, it was kind of like this was always there, but I just didn't tap into it. And it was just such a powerful, like, realization and knowing. And it kind of like just snowballed from there. Like, all of a sudden, people were reaching out to me. I wasn't even like promoting that I was doing it, but I will say, like, spirit will show you how. Like, if you
Mm-hmm.
just stick to your why, if you like just, stay on your path, stick to your why, spirit will bring in the how. And I was just naturally ushered into this new wave of helping women conceive, literally, like bring in their babies. And there are just so many iterations of this, like, so many. Motherhood truly looks different for everyone. And I feel like that is something as a society that we're healing, because we do have this toxic narrative around motherhood having to look a certain aesthetic, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I have clients who are single, who want nothing more than to have a baby and are doing it on their own. I have clients who have been in relationships for years and have been on their second or third round of IVF who still have not been able to bring a baby earthside.
Mm,
I have clients who have no desire at all to birth a human through their body in this lifetime, but they are spiritually curious as to why a spirit baby is working with them and how that
mm,
affects their purpose and how they can work with the spirit baby. There are so many different possibilities, so many different beautiful stories and ways that spirit babies work with us and communicate with us. It's just endless. Like the possibilities honestly are endless. And I've been doing spirit baby readings for the past 3 years, where it's been like a surge in spirit baby readings, even though that's not like the only thing that I do, but it is one of the, gateways of how people work with me. And it's just so beautiful that to this day, I'm still surprised at like the
mm,
messages that come through. And it's been really interesting to see the evolution as well of us as women and what we are moving through as a collective in terms of reclaiming our voice and our bodies in a much more powerful way than we even have been 2 years ago.
mm-hmm. Yeah, great points. I love it. I didn't even know that before, that we can have spirit babies around us even if we aren't deciding to become mothers. So
Mhm.
well, you have many stories, right? But like why in some clients' cases are there babies around them? Like what are their purposes to be around them even if they don't desire to have human children?
Right. So, one interesting case in particular that always stands out to me is I had a client who she was a former like Miss USA, like she was like in pageants, like a celebrity, and she had a very distinct purpose. Like she was on this path of like getting a deal with a major network to start a show, and she was just really curious because she's very in tune, very intuitive. She felt a strong connection to this presence around her, and she was like, but she, decided like, no, it's not my path, it's not for me this lifetime. And so when we were doing the reading, as I was connecting to the energy of the spirit baby, I just kept hearing like great aunt. Like this baby was working with her through her purpose to actually be birthed by one of her nieces. And so I asked her,
Mm.
I'm like, do you have nieces? Because I just kept getting this like visual of like nieces and like you're the great aunt. And
Oh.
she was like, she was like shocked because she was like, I feel like my nieces are my children. Like she has such a close relationship with two of her nieces. There was an older one and a younger one. And I'm like, yeah, that spirit baby is working with you because it is a part of your lineage. So
Mm.
ancestor work is very important to me. To me, spirit babies are our future ancestors. So what does that mean? It means that ancestors are all about healing and repairing the lineage, right? Like not only are we breaking cycles, patterns, and belief systems, but we're embodying the blessings and carrying those forward. Ideally, we want to leave the trauma and the wounds behind. We want to break those cycles, but we do want to carry over those blessings, that magic, and bring that forward. So, sometimes spirit babies are within your lineage, but not meant to be birthed by you. But they work with you on your purpose so that you can set up the lineage in a particular way because they are still very much guiding you. Spirit babies are so interested in our purpose because
Mm.
it contributes to theirs. Ultimately, it will carry on into their soul contract.
Wow, I've never
Oh, it
heard.
was so interesting. Like that, like really stood out to me because I do have a lot of single, clients and like clients who are manifesting a partner who don't have a partner, but they want to work with the energy of their spirit baby to say like, okay, who is your ideal father, right? Like, how can I call or invite this person in?
Mm, that's amazing. Yeah, I love that too, the future ancestors, right? I mean, I'm a huge component of a huge believer in ancestral work,
Yeah.
and it just broadens that perspective, right? It broadens what we think we know about babies and children. And like you said before, that women are shifting so much and remembering. We're just remembering. Nothing here is new. It's all deep remembrance.
Right. Yeah.
So, with that, what would you say? Like, so the spirit babies like would work, like those spirit babies would work with the person who is already doing the work. Do you feel like that's that bridge?
Yeah. They, so, you know, spirit babies can, and here's the thing. So, spirit babies are in the spirit realm, which is, you know, a different level of consciousness, a plane of reality or a plane of existence that we're in. It's like parallel to ours. They're waiting for their reincarnation. Some spirit babies have a super particular set of criteria or requirements. Some are in your lineage. They are meant to be birthed by someone in your lineage. We have free will. So even if you have a spirit baby around you and you're like, you know what, I just don't want to bring this baby forward in this lifetime, there's no guilt, there's no shame, there's no judgment. If it's not right for you, it's not right for the baby. But if one belongs to your lineage, they'll get passed down to someone else in your
Mm.
lineage. But they will work with the person that is guiding them, that is helping them on their path ultimately. Some spirit babies are not attached to lineage. They're just looking for a certain criteria to be met. So they can move on. Like if you have a spirit baby and you're not meeting their criteria, they move
I love
on
it.
to like a certain set because
they're
to
like
them
they're like with their checklist, right? It's like an interview.
in the last year, I kid you not, this checklist has gotten so like specific. When I started doing this work, I feel like it was much more broader. And
Yeah.
now ancestral healing, reclamation have been huge themes. The last year, especially, deeper root level work. Like literally, the foundations of people are being asked to shift in order to bring these babies earthside because they have really powerful purposes.
Hmm.
They're here literally to change the world, you know? And I feel like every generation has had some of that advocacy, but even more important now that these children aren't born with the same ancestral baggage that perpetuates the, you know, cycles of violence and hate.
Mm.
And you know what I mean? Those are lower level vibrations. And
Abuse. Yeah.
it's not sustainable for any of us for our future generations to hold that same heaviness.
Oh my gosh, Kristine, this is so powerful. Yeah. Yeah, because the ones coming in, right? These star babies, these babies
Mhm.
that are like ascended masters pretty much just
Yes.
coming back
Oh,
to help Mother Earth ascend because
yeah.
it's ghetto here.
Yes. And a lot of new souls, a lot of
Hmm.
souls who haven't reincarnated here before, a lot of souls who are new to Earth to raise and shift that vibration. This is like the new Earth that we've been hearing about. This is the new Earth. Like it's here. Like we're in it. Like this is it, you know, and we see it. And unfortunately, but fortunately, part of the birth process is death. It's just the polarity and the duality of both. Like, in order
Mm.
for something to be born, something has to die. And that is really like the limiting beliefs, the patterns, the cycles that we've allowed to be carried over from older generations that are no longer supporting humanity.
Do you feel like connecting with your spirit baby is an important part of conscious conception of being preparing yourself for motherhood?
100%. Like, I honestly look back on it and I realize the ways that my daughter, un- like, you know, even though I didn't consciously know it at the time or intentionally know it, she was working with me to heal my body, my mind. my emotional wounds around
Mm,
motherhood. I never thought that I was going to be a mother. I'm going to be honest with you. I was never one of those women who had to be a mom. I was like on the fence about it for a very well into my 20s, like well into my late 20s. I was kind of like, I don't really think I have to be a mother, you know? And it wasn't until I realized that I was holding on to these limiting beliefs and these energetic blocks about what it looked like, what it felt like to be a mother, that I was able to kind of move past that narrative and create a new one for myself. And this was very much my daughter being like, come on, like, you know that you were meant for this. I just need
mm,
you to remember that you agreed to this, right? Like, and I see that so much in my clients. Like, we're not giving ourselves the credit that we are capable enough of doing this, or that even that we are worthy of deserving.
mm.
And this goes beyond motherhood. It's like, you're worthy of the dream, whatever the hell it is. You know, like, you are worthy of it, and to not settle for anything less than that. Because how often do we do that? Like, we settle all the time.
Yes. Settle in relationships, settle in jobs, settle in our own power, our own sexuality, right?
Yep.
Like our own expression.
Right.
Um, but that's really amazing. I mean, I am a speech language pathologist too. I've been one for years. So I've been around kids all my life. And I say they're our greatest teachers, right? So, like, spirit baby, yeah, they're going to still be our greatest teachers. And we learn more. Like, I don't have children yet, right? But like, we learn so much more from them than we could ever teach them. Like, it's,
Would you want to know how many spirit babies are around you? Because they're like, I don't know if it's because we've opened up this portal, but they're like, hey
oh no,
mom.
girl, I'm psychic medium too. I've
Mm,
seen them. Sure, I'm open.
like, I feel three around you. Like, have
Yeah.
you felt them?
Yes. Ooh. I was like, is she gonna channel today? Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, I've told my partner, I'm like, there's three.
Yes, like, I'm getting chills because they are so prevalent around you. And it's like this beautiful, like, there's just such a beautiful, like, meaning of like the number three too,
Mm,
right? It's like this beautiful, like, trifecta. There's just so many like beautiful things about the energy and the number of three. Yeah, but yeah, it's really amazing to like do this work and to lean into it. And there's just so many things like that we can look at, in terms of why they're with you, what are they here to help support you with. And also knowing that once they are conceived, that journey doesn't end. It's like they're still guiding you. And if we could look at our children not as children, right, but really like these evolved souls who are committed to guiding us and like
mm-hmm.
deepening our understanding of our experience here, then I think a lot would shift for parents too. Whereas
Yes.
we feel like we're responsible for them, like, oh, I'm responsible for my child and I have to take care of them. And yes, of course, but there is this collaborative thing that happens where our children are also taking care of us, and they are just as responsible for us as we are for them. And once you start forming that connection before you even conceive your child, I feel like you appreciate it more, or you have like a deeper level of understanding about how
Mm,
important like that bond and that connection really is.
beautiful. Yeah. No, I already what you said before. The second we got engaged, my partner and I felt another level of ancestral healing, another level. And I was telling a girlfriend, I'm like, I've healed this. Like, why is this coming up? And she's like, because you entered the next step. Like
Uh,
they're here and I feel them. Like, okay, you're gonna be our mom and dad. Let's
mm,
go. Let's do the and I've done so much deep work, but there's always more. And
always.
what you said before too, and we can touch on that, is our own childhood, right? Like our own experiences and how that affects our limited beliefs, right? That affects, am I going to be a good enough mother? Am I going to turn out like my own parents? Am I going to repeat the same cycles? And I get chills. Oh, I get chills because our parents did the best they could,
Yeah.
right? And they healed their own on their own level, right? And then it's like up to us to heal and also take on those strengths of our lineage. But what can you say to that, of healing that inner child before conception or before motherhood?
I will say one of the most important things that I talk with my clients about, but also that comes up from spirit babies, is acceptance,
Mm,
is forgiveness, is acknowledging the ways that your needs may not have been met, and starting to create a space or environment where expression and activating that throat chakra, right? Like our throats and our wombs are connected. Literally, when our jaw is clenched, our like pelvic area is clenched, and that there's a
mm-hmm.
relationship our womb and our throat. And the more that we can speak and not be afraid, the more that we can tap into that feminine energy of vulnerability and connection and support, you know, things a lot of our mothers weren't allowed to do. And it can feel scary, it can feel triggering, but the more that we can create those environments, those structures, those opportunities for ourselves, it gets a little easier,
Mm,
especially because we a part of what I do also is energy healing. So, I do the readings, but I'm also looking at my client's energy. What is blocked? What is trapped there? What can we move through this person's energy? I always like to remind people that we're mind, body, and spirit. So sometimes traditional talk therapy gets us to a certain point, but then we still have to move those emotions and that energy out of our body. And so just being conscious about how we are nourishing ourselves, being really intentional about our connection practices and our daily rituals, and just again, like, and I hate to keep saying this, but we don't give ourselves the permission to, like, we feel guilty and we feel shame for taking care of ourselves. And if we only realized that taking care of ourselves is literally what's going to change the world, like,
mm-hmm.
rather than focusing externally on everything and everyone else, if we were to take that energy and internalize it and put that effort, that resource into ourselves, literally our external environment would change. And I think that's a perspective that we're starting to be more aware of and intentional of like that whole mom guilt narrative, or that whole like selfish, oh, it's selfish to like do this and this for you, even if you're not a mom. Like, that is one thing that I'm starting to see shift, with more women be more intentional about investing in themselves, in doing all the things that make them feel really supported, nourished, and speaking, communicating more to express their needs and their desires. Because one of the things entering motherhood, I was like, I don't know what I need. I don't
Mm,
really know like what makes me feel good, and in having like a human, you're even get more lost. And it's like, I honestly don't know what makes me happy, and allowing yourself to know that what used to make me happy before doesn't really resonate anymore. And so what is that? Like, what do I literally need on like a mind, body, spiritual level that makes me feel complete?
yeah. Yeah. The self-care. I'm a big advocate of self-care, and that it is, I'm like, let's reframe the word selfish. Like, we, as
Yes.
women, like you said, it literally does change the world. The more we pour into our own cup, the more our partnerships are better, like our friendships, our relationships, our client, connections. Like, yeah, that narrative is definitely shifting. And I'm sure you feel it too. It's like our moms, my mom didn't have that, right? She's learning it now, and
Yeah.
she tells me, like, through my own work my Instagram and what I share, she's like, you've taught me so much about self-care and about how to
Yeah.
take care of myself and healing. And it's just it's making me emotional. It's just such
Oh,
a a beautiful thing, because the more we take care of ourselves, the more we're healing our lineages, and whether they're here or not, on this earth plane or not.
absolutely.
Um, what what would you say for, well, your mom? So how do you feel like it has shifted since you've had your daughter and you do this work and you are intuitive? Um, how has that affected your life to be a conscious mother, to be so intentional?
I will say it's made it, um, I don't like, it has made it easier, right? Because I don't experience, because I feel like I just have a deeper understanding of my boundary too,
Mm,
of what it is I need, but also what it is my family needs, and how I'm kind of setting a foundation for my daughter, advocating for herself and not compromising or settling, right? It's kind of like setting that example. And I will say too, like in the readings, it's almost like counterintuitive, right, to our ego, where when we're conceiving, we're like, no, I need to be like monitoring. We still take a very masculine approach to
mm,
conception. It's like,
mm-hmm.
oh, I'm ovulating, let's have, and it's kind of like a turnkey operation we start operating at, especially if you are doing IVF or something where it's literally like, I need to take my injections. So we can take a very a masculine approach to conception. So a lot of the time, the messages I'm receiving for the spirit from the spirit baby is like, forget that you're trying to conceive. Literally, like, just forget about me because I'm here. I'm doing my thing. You need to do your thing. Like, focus on you. Focus on your connection with your partner.
Mm.
Focus on all of the things that you need to focus on, right? Like that self care, that nourishment, rather than like focusing on the outcome, which is a very masculine thing. Like, oh, I'm doing something to get results
The
from it.
goals, right?
The goal, the outcome, the performance, the analytics, right? Like all of those masculine
It
things,
takes all the fun and all the pleasure
all the
out of the picture.
femininity, literally all the femininity, that trust, that surrender, that excitement, that
Mm.
pleasure of it. Because now we're like, oh yeah, I've been trying to conceive for a year. I'm fucking exhausted. Sorry. I don't know
No,
if
it's
I
okay.
can,
You can curse here.
like, I'm
Throat chakras
exhausted.
activated.
Like, like I'm tired, I'm exhausted. It's not happening because it's like
It
you're
becomes
not,
a chore,
it
right?
becomes a responsibility, an obligation, a duty rather than like love. Literally, like
Mm.
when you're approaching it from that angle, when you're doing, like when you're conceiving like from a very masculine standpoint, you forget to surrender and open and literally receive. And it's like
Literally receive. You're right. As
one of the
women,
most
that's a whole
crucial
nother
parts.
topic, girl.
Like that's like a very
Receiving. We
crucial
can't
part.
receive. So many
Like
women.
literally the baby's like, I can't even get in there. Like I don't even, like there's really no space for me to even like be birthed because like she's literally closed. Like I'm
Mm.
literally not receiving because I'm so focused on the outcome that I forget that part of the process is trusting, surrendering, and receiving, because I'm approaching conception from a very masculine standpoint. Like I lose my femininity in the process,
Mm.
because Western medicine does treat birth and conception. I was reading a statistic the other day. The World Health Organization did a study in April of this year. 1 in 6 people globally are infertile or struggle. I'm sorry, not infertile, but struggle with fertility. That's
One
alarming.
in six.
1 in 6
Wow. Has that
struggle
number
with
gone up?
fertility. But this was April of this year that study came out. So, and I will say again, I've been doing the spirit baby readings like very intentionally for the past 3 years. In the past year, I have been receiving more clients who have experienced pregnancy loss, who
Mm.
have been down 2, 3 rounds of IVF. The people who have like completely exhausted all of the logical steps
Yeah.
to conception, and they're like, WTF, I don't understand, why is this not working? And there is no physical like block, like their bodies are perfectly healthy and normal, but something's not adding up. And a lot of it is that softening in our femininity, that awakening, that remembering, that giving ourselves permission, the womb healing aspect of it, the ancestral layers that we are healing through. So, sometimes it is much deeper. A lot of the time it's much deeper than
Yeah.
like the surface level stuff.
What about miscarriages or abortions, right? Like,
Yeah.
will those spirit babies come back? Like,
Mhm.
do they tend to come back if those events happen?
So that's also very interesting. There's so many possibilities. Sometimes the same baby will reincarnate. Sometimes that baby will move on. Like, for instance, if you have three spirit babies, the first one you might miscarry. The second baby in line might step up, and that one will be the second. Like, they might change the
Oh.
order of conception. Um, Sometimes that baby will completely move on to someone else. And again, there is no like guilt. Like, abortion is a choice, and it's a very like spiritual choice as well. If it's not right for you, it's not right for the baby, period. So sometimes the baby will come back, and it's just a matter of timing. Like, you have to be
Mhm.
ready. You have to be willing to receive this child, and vice versa. The baby has to be ready and willing to come through as well. Miscarriage, a lot of the time, I'm like, spirit babies, can we like figure out another method of communication rather than like miscarrying? Because it can be devastating.
Yeah.
It can be very emotionally, mentally, physically draining to be experiencing pregnancy loss. But a lot of the time it's the spirit baby saying, like, one, I just wanted to know, I wanted my parents to know I was there. Like, I wanted
Oh.
them to know that it was possible.
Oh my
Sometimes I have
God.
clients who have been told, like, oh, you have PCOS, it's impossible for you to have pregnant. They'll get pregnant, but they'll miscarry. And it's like,
Mm.
well, kind of like bittersweet. They told me I would never have children or be impossible, but I actually had a child through natural conception methods. What is shifting? Like, what needs to
Yeah.
change? What needs to shift? What can I do? It's kind of like the miscarriages, the pregnancy loss are kind of like clues. What needs to shift in the relationship? What needs to change? What needs to heal? But it's also like, I'm here. I'm here. I'm here physically. This is possible. We're together, and I'm not
Mm.
going anywhere. It's kind of like their way to like manifest in a material way that tells us that it's possible.
So interesting. I've heard, maybe it was in that book, Spirit Babies. I can't remember. I'd love to hear your intuitive insight though. Is that sometimes miscarriages, the soul, the baby, spirit baby, like thought they wanted to be human, and then they were like, wait, no, just kidding.
It can happen too, where, okay, so we have there's like a limitless possibility.
I know. I love it.
We have soul contracts, right? So eventually, essentially, like a contract our soul signed, like, this is what you're meant to do in this lifetime. We have free will. So sometimes that soul contract doesn't get fulfilled. And sometimes it might be the spirit baby. Maybe it's a baby's contract to like experience what it feels like to be in a human body. But maybe they decided, I don't actually want to like carry this out. Like, is
Hmm.
this really isn't for me? It 100% can be possible. There's just so many different possibilities that it's honestly endless. Like, it really is, because it can be a choice also. Like, with some of my clients, I'm literally like, you have to commit, because throughout our lifetime we're also renegotiating our soul
Mm.
contract. We
Hmm.
can, from a soul and a spiritual perspective, be like, I know I agreed to this, but I don't really want to, or I feel like there's another way I can do this in this lifetime. And so sometimes that will be a renegotiation of like our soul contract and what we're committing to. So sometimes it's like maybe there's a lot of fear or tension or energy blocked within us that the baby is like, I don't actually feel like you're committed to bringing me here. So that's why I'm not coming. Like that's why I'm not. So sometimes we'll do like a cord release and like ground the spirit baby's energy so that you feel like, no, this is what I want to do. Like, I'm super grounded in this decision. I'm committed to this. We're kind of like renegotiating and establishing the new terms for our contract. And sometimes it's just that, like, subtle shift in energy of
Wow.
like, wow, I really am committing to this path.
So because as you do couples readings as well to like
Yeah.
bring the couples in, right? Maybe one person has more blockages or healing or
Yes. And it's
interesting.
interesting because women, we automatically like take the martyr
Yes.
position. We're like, if a baby's not happening, it's my fault. A lot
That's
of the
also
time,
society.
yeah,
1 in 4 pregnancies happen to be miscarriages or abortion, and no one talks about this.
no one talks about it.
And they blame the woman. Even miscarriage, people feel shame to talk about.
It is a stigma. It's a stigma. And I tell my clients, I'm like, remember, it takes three people. It takes your baby, your partner, and you. In some
Mm,
cases, you might not have a partner, right? It's just you and the baby because you decide that you want to be a single mom. Um, but I will say what's an interesting shift lately as well that I'm seeing a theme in my readings is men really stepping up in a new awakened way of them healing and realizing that it is on them. I had a client this morning actually where when I was looking at her energy, we are just talking about like some different things. But when I was like talking to the spirit baby was like, look, dad needs to step up. Like he's afraid. He has some inner child healing. Mom was doing everything. She was doing acupuncture. She was doing healing work. Like her energy was so good.
mm,
Like she was really committed. But it was dad who was kind of like, 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And that was like, and I don't want to say block, but for them, it was like getting on the same page.
yeah.
How can we create really strong foundational elements of like what this family looks like? How can we both
Mm,
feel really safe and comfortable in what we're creating together? And that was the shift. So, like he had things that he was working out on his end of feeling like he could be a capable father. He was working through ancestral wounds, limiting beliefs about what it meant to provide for a family, so there was a lot of things on his side that he was clearing and healing through, and it was just a matter of time for this baby to come
wow.
through.
So
So sometimes
powerful.
that, sometimes that helps us because again, we feel like I'm doing all the things. I don't get it. Like, what is wrong with me? And we're not talking about our partner meeting us halfway. A lot of the time, women are tasked with more of the work, quote unquote, on
Hmm.
our end to bring a child through. And, it's really interesting that I am seeing a shift where men are taking that accountability, but also um realizing that, oh, okay, there's things that I get to fix and adjust on my end as well to bring this baby here.
Yeah. Yeah. The rise of the masculine for sure. And
Mhm.
even just saying yes to a reading with you, right? Like that's huge for a man to really
Yeah,
step into that. So, oh my gosh, really
it's cool.
amazing, Kristine, the work you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to know where people can find you, where people can work with you, what kind of offerings you give.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I offer spirit baby readings, of course, for couples, for singles, wherever you are on your journey. I also offer soul care sessions. So those are for women who are looking to deepen their understanding of their purpose, any way that you feel stuck or need clarity or guidance. I also do, one-on-one mentorship. I have community memberships for women who are just all about spirituality, whether, you're an entrepreneur or woman looking to like just be around like a circle of women. So I have like, gateways for people to work with me wherever you are on your path and whatever you're trying to let go of and whatever you're trying to receive. So you can go to my website KristineMcGlinchey.com and connect with me on Instagram. I'm on Instagram Kristine_McGlinchey.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your wisdom, your
Oh, thank
knowledge, and
you.
this powerful work you're doing. You're helping all these babies, all these star beings come onto earth and change the world. It's really powerful.
Thank you.